Just getting myself familiar with the platform. So I think we're good. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. I was just looking to see where the chat box is, if we can engage through this presentation. Uh, I'd love to take questions, but I would say I like to be very dynamic, very engaging. So neither I fall asleep while presenting nor you. Right? So, but what we do, jokes aside, let's keep the questions at the end. However, I'd love for you to figure out where you can submit questions, where you can chat. So you can submit your questions as they come up, because throughout there's a chance I'll ask you questions. I'll I'll ask you to pick and choose which problems you're experiencing, which strategies you've tried so far, what have you done before, what are you struggling with. So if you miss that time window, you may end up forgetting something, right? So I want you to be able to just quickly type something up, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll go through and we'll answer them. And with that said, without further ado, I want to welcome everybody to this presentation. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to present to you. And today's all about building your professional network, as well as developing your professional brand, because ultimately you need to use both of them to land a job offer in today's job market. And uh, what we're going to cover today, here we go, is primarily uh, what today's presentation is primarily for someone who's applying for jobs, or who've applied for jobs in the past, but you're not hearing back. So you're taking action in terms of contacting employers, recruiters, filling out job applications, but you're just not hearing back. So total radio silence. If that's the case for you, you're definitely in the right place. This could also be for you if you are networking, if you're going above and beyond, if you're contacting people directly, if you're messaging them, if you're getting referrals, but you're still not landing interviews. Again, this presentation is for you. And it's also going to be for you if you're landing interviews, you are going to interviews, but you're just not getting callbacks. Recruiters may be ghosting you. Hiring managers may not be contacting you back. This is also for you. I also want to add a fourth scenario here. You may not even be looking for work. If that's you, you're like, you know what, I'm graduating in December. I'm not looking for work right now. Well, you're still in the right place, because this is going to stop you from going down the wrong path and following strategies and tactics that would end up wasting a lot of your time. So if that's you, I envy you. I wish I knew this type of information back in the day when I was job searching. And if that's you, that's great to be you. So you're in the perfect place. So let's move on. Oops, guess a little bit of delay there. So want to take 2 seconds, tell you a little bit about myself, like literally within 60 seconds. Ultimately, I have a background in engineering myself, in electronics engineering. I graduated in 2007. I've spent the first half of my life in Iran, and when I was 18, I immigrated to Canada with my parents. So I had to go back to high school for a couple of years, learn how to speak English, and then went to college and university from 2003 to 2007. Graduated end of 2007 with a bachelor's in electronics engineering out of Toronto, and I spent the first 3 years of my life just struggling to get a job in my own field and never succeeded. Now, truth be told, my excuse is that I graduated when we had the last recession, the 2008 recession, and there's lots of truth to that. But another bitter truth is that I wasn't following the right job search strategies that led to me failing to get a job that I wanted, had to deviate from the industry that I was at, ended up losing my identity, ended up changing my name, feeling like if I change my name, make it westernized, it's going to give me more interviews. None of that stuff worked. And for 3 years, I was looking for jobs that paid me like 15 bucks an hour. I worked with an engineering degree in a coffee shop, serving donuts, a security guard on the weekends, and none of that stuff worked. And I ended up taking a survival job for ultimately 3 years until 2010, so 11 years ago, when I switched into the recruiting industry. And I totally fell in love because I learned what it takes to get a job, what's the right way of getting a job, the effective strategies, and I started helping other people do the exact same thing. And that gave me the fulfillment that I really needed in life. I found my true purpose and I found meaning in life. So today I'm really inspired by like helping engineers and scientists break away from the fears that they have and develop the courage, but also the knowledge that they require to contact employers directly, get the right job at the right company, so their skills are their top skills are being utilized, and they're being surrounded by people and the environment that really resonates with them. So without further ado, I want to move forward and tell you what we're going to cover in today's presentation. So going to cover 5 different things. First of all, how to tap into the hidden job market and find the job openings that have not been advertised yet. So statistically speaking, if you look at traditional data, when I say traditional, I mean like pre-pandemic, more than 80% of jobs were not being advertised. Always been like that. Post-pandemic, you can take that number between 80 to 90% of the jobs. They'll never hit the public job markets. That won't be advertised on the internet. I mean, like all of the internet, not just one website, this website or that website. Companies don't have the additional budget to go after advertising them. Those critical roles will be filled through a variety of different hiring programs, which are much more cost effective and much more quicker. And you're going to find out what they are and which ones are the most effective. So first, though, you got to learn how to identify those unadvertised jobs. And that's what we call the hidden job market. Secondly, it's going to be how to evaluate your network gap, because ultimately to get into those unadvertised or hidden jobs, you need to develop a network. And a network gap is a real thing. And it ultimately does reduce your chances of getting identified by hiring managers and being standing out in the hiring process. So we definitely have to evaluate. That's where I want you to do a little bit of work. So have a pen and paper handy. Next, we're going to talk about how to organize your network and how to set clear goals for developing your personal brand. Because as a prerequisite, before you establish a network, before you start engaging with other people and reaching out to them, you do have to have a clear brand, clear message, clear resume, properly set up LinkedIn profile. So that's critical. Then we're going to talk about how to increase the chance of getting interviews through networking and communicating the right way, because networking does not mean you're going to message someone and ask them if they're hiring or ask them if they're can send them your resume. That's not networking. Rather than asking for a job, you got to ask for advice, you got to ask for guidance, and you got to have to give ideas, give insights, and give value. So it's a two-way road, and it never starts by you asking for something. And lastly, we're going to talk about how to initiate those conversations, those informational interviews per se, and how to follow up properly, so you ultimately move forward in your job search journey. So let's talk about the first step, which is tapping into that hidden job market, identifying the job openings that haven't yet been advertised. So for you to be able to understand that, I want you to know that you must have experienced this already, so I might not even have to tell you this, but traditional job search strategies don't work anymore, so this should not come to you as a surprise. What I want you to look at on this slide is it's actually pretty traditional hiring strategy, hiring matrix, hiring process, hiring pyramid, whatever you want to call it. There's a standard operating procedure that companies go through for them to start hiring people. And if you look at the left-hand side, it mentions that companies or employers hire in this direction from the bottom up. Now, I guess I don't really need to ask you guys, but there's a chance that you've heard online, you've read an article, you've been told even by your career counselors at the school to apply online. I'm going to be honest and open during today's presentation because we want to make sure we don't give bad advice to anyone. That apply online. You like to work for company XYZ, go to their website, apply online. Unfortunately, that's very traditional. That does not work anymore. So I want you to be able to look beyond that and understand that when you go about job searching, you need to first learn what do employers do to hire you, to fill in their positions. How priorities are, what priorities are, which begins in terms of hiring programs, starts from finding someone internally or someone who's a temporary staff, part-time, someone from a different department, an existing consultant, someone like that to come and fill in the position. That is a very effective strategy. A good 20% of jobs are filled like that. If that doesn't work, then we're going to look at what kind of referrals can we get from existing staff. If that doesn't work, we're going to start networking. We're going to start directly reaching out to people, utilizing networks like LinkedIn, different social media platforms. If that doesn't work, we're going to start, contacting different associations, the Professional Engineering Association, this association, that association. If that doesn't work, and these are big ifs, by this time, 70, 80% of jobs have been filled, more than 80% nowadays. Last two steps is to outsource that hiring program to a recruiting agency, which costs more, but has a much higher guarantee of success. And we don't have to do anything, we just get you, we'll pay you to do the job for us. And if that doesn't work, we're going to end up advertising that job on online job boards. So if you're one of the people on the right-hand side looking for jobs in the opposite direction, it should no longer be a surprise that you're not getting good results, because you're only dealing with a small fraction of the jobs, just the tip of the iceberg. You're only looking at jobs that have been publicly advertised, and you're dealing with millions of other candidates who are also applying to the same jobs, tens of thousands of other engineers or scientists or technologists who are applying to the same roles. So it's the process of getting selected is no longer even about who's got the right skill sets, who's got the right capabilities. It's just a lottery, who's luckier, who applied faster. It's just a game of luck. You can try to further keyword optimize your resume, but guess what? Everybody does that. There's nothing really you can do that totally separates you from the crowds. If you want to play around and try to stand at the top of the iceberg, you'll fall down. The best thing you can do is just come back to proactively networking and establishing connections with the internal staff in the company. When you adjust your strategy and align it with the way employers look for work, you will just transform the entire success, you will transform the entire experience you have, and you improve your success rate. Cool. So I know I'm going to have questions at the end of this, but we'll talk about that later. I want to move on to the next slide, which is also very important. And basically, you can now see that recruiting priorities have changed. Like the way companies hire people, the processes they go through have changed. It's no longer about just who's got the right skill sets. They need to make sure that you fit the company's culture, you understand their environment, so you're adaptable. They need to know that you're passionate about the company's mission, so you'll keep learning and growing with them. And ultimately, thirdly, last important thing is that you have the skills to solve their problem, right? So if you look at the funnel on the right-hand side, this is what a modern recruiting funnel, but when I say a funnel, I mean a process where you have lots of people apply for the job. Traditionally used to be like, okay, we just want to get the right skill sets, then apply for the job. If you're qualified, we're going to interview you. It doesn't work like that anymore. First we go through a phase called employer branding, which is the phase where they need to make sure that you understand the company's culture, you're familiar with the environment, so you're not going to end up leaving and no one in the company is going to start hating you. You're going to collaborate well with the other employees of the company. Then if that doesn't work, often they bring a lot of people at the top of the funnel, which is the goal of the company, to create alignment in the fundamental levels. But if that doesn't work, they begin sourcing. Sourcing is where they begin to contact people, very similar to social networks. Sourcing is often done internally. Social recruiting is where they utilize platforms such as LinkedIn on top of that list, and any other social media platform to identify people who appear to have the right skill sets, right background, right experiences, have worked in the similar environment, similar culture. If that doesn't work, they begin going through passive candidate nurturing. These are the candidates that they've already known, they've interviewed before, they're familiar with, and then they really begin to advertise online, so everybody starts applying. They go through the qualification phase, evaluation, selection, hiring, and onboarding and training, right? So I want you to understand that modern recruiting is all about that continuous candidate engagement. So you ultimately have to follow a process that allows you to spend more time with the employer, more time with the recruiter, because that is their priority as well. They want to continuously engage with you, which means they want to spend more time with you to get to know you. You know, so if you're just applying online, filling your resume, applying online, they're not getting a chance to get to know you. That's an opportunity missed. They want to see multiple interactions with you. So that's self-explanatory. The more you interact with someone, the more you get to know them, the more you communicate with them, the more you hear their ideas, the more you evaluate their personality and their character. And speaking of character, they need to see an indication of a sustained interest in the candidate. So sometimes it just shows your grit, shows again, goes back to character, your grit, your commitment. Are you just going to be applying and just never following up? You know, because like you're not really interested. If you're interested really in a company, in their brand, in their product, you really see yourself building a career there, you're gonna have to keep knocking. If you keep knocking and no one picks up, guess what? You knock again. If you call someone and they don't pick up, guess what? You're gonna call again and again and again. You go to sleep, you wake up, you call again. You have lunch, you call again. Before you leave, you call again. That's continuous. That's sustained interest. You follow up many times, like 5 times is the bare minimum number of follow-ups we do. So that's an indication of sustained interest. And it's not only the follow-up, there's a variety of different social engagement strategies that you could employ as well. So that's modern recruiting. That's the process. Those are the priorities. Cool. So again, keep your questions, write them down, put them in the chat box. I still haven't figured out where the chat is. Oh, I saw it up there. I see there's chats waiting. I'm not going to click on it and get distracted, but we'll go through it at the end and I'll answer your questions. This is a very important slide. And I know I've shared this slide before, but if someone doesn't have it, doesn't get it after this presentation, feel comfortable reaching out to me and I'm more than comfortable giving you exactly what you got on the screen. So if you see something on the screen, don't waste your time writing it down. You will have a copy of this exactly. Moving on to evaluating your network gap and reducing so that you can reduce your chances of, as a candidate in the hiring process. Because if you don't have connections, you're going to be in deep trouble. And the reality really is, now with understanding new methodologies, new market, the new changes in the economy, networks matter a lot. And some of the things that we don't have control over that's really behind it is where we grow up, where we go to school, and where we work, where we live ultimately, because these all influence, directly and indirectly influence who we are surrounded by. And I know I didn't have that privilege of having a big network. 9 out of 10 people that I speak to that attend these presentations, that listen to me on podcasts, they attend live webinars, they're nodding their head. It's like, yeah, I don't really have a network, because if you had a network, you probably wouldn't be here. You already had a job. Just the ultimate goal here for you to learn how to fill those gaps so you can make that transition. So I'm just going to assume that everybody here does have, does have that gap in their network, and we want to be able to identify what that really means for you to fill it, and what that inner circle, I call it, what kind of advantage that gives you, because like statistically speaking, it gives you a 12 times advantage in gaining access to opportunities. See, if you circle back to the journey, to the process, to the best practices that employers use before the job is publicly available, where every person gets access to it, they're going to go through their internal referrals, direct networking. And guess how LinkedIn works? The best path is the path towards your first level connection, then the second level connections, then the third level connections, then the group connections. There's going to be many people outside of those circles that are just not going to be part of your network. That's your network gap. So you got to be really careful for that. And you got to start actively closing that gap. And there's 3 strategies that I recommend you follow. First of all, you got to use technology these days. And the one and only technology, the primary tool that we use, what I would recommend that you totally focus on is LinkedIn as a tech tool, as a communication tool, as a job search tool, as job application tool, job skills learning tool, things going on, data acquisition tool, salary data tool, like has a lot of things built in. So rather than spreading your time over multiple tools, platforms, we just focus on one and just really go deep. Second is community, which is, and LinkedIn allows you to build that community and start conversations. And thirdly is a system. A system is something that I can use, you can use, everybody here can use, and everybody gets the same result. So it gives you that consistency and accountability to get results and win. Cool. So if you have any questions about this, I'll definitely answer at the end of the presentation, but networks matter the most. If you don't have it, chances are you don't. Today is the best time to start building it. It's like that old proverb, you know, the best time to plant the trees is 1,000 years ago or 100 years ago. The second best time is right now. You know, so we're gonna start planting trees for you right now. Let's move on to organizing your network and setting clear goals to develop your personal brand and build trust. You know, so you could build your network and develop your brand with so many different people at so many different levels. But what I want you to do really, what I want you to really focus on, and the word focus is going to continue to come up here, is to focus on connecting with people that really make a difference in your success, in your network, in your entire job search journey, your entire career development journey. And this is where we want to tap into data and utilize utilize the strategy that's data backed. So if you look at here, I've shared with you, a long list of different job search, or not job search strategies, hiring strategies. You know, these are strategies on the left-hand side where you see the source name, career sites, job boards, recruiter, referrals, internal ability, agency, hiring manager, different campaigns. These are all the different strategies that an employer uses to fill in the open gaps that they have in their team, to fill in the open roles that they have. If they have an open job, they want to close it, they utilize a variety of different strategies. Couple of things I want you to take a look at. Obviously, the areas that I've circled, first two rows are extremely important because chances are that's where you're spending, or let me correct that, wasting a lot of your time. At the same time, you're being guided, you're being advised to go to this job board, or, oh, Indeed is better. Oh no, Career Builder is better. Oh no, LinkedIn Jobs is the best. Altogether, everything on the internet is a complete waste of time. That includes company websites. If you don't believe me, just look at how much competition you have. Nearly like 13 million people, 12 million people, 12 million applications. Why so much competition? Because it's publicly available, so millions of people apply to it. And I also blame, media companies do the TV commercials. We've all seen that monster.ca commercial, that click, 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 and poof, the guy disappears. It's like, what happened? Oh, he got a job, applied on monster.ca. It's like, are you kidding me? It doesn't work like that, but we believe it, So we go to the online, click, 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 and we wait for the genie to come up and for us to disappear and just reappear in an Amazon office, There's just, reality doesn't work like that. But, in this case, 12 million people fell for that. Only like less than 1% of them actually got hired. So this most important column that you want to look at is how effective were those people by following those strategies. Obviously, I recommend for you to recommend against going after job boards and job markets. Don't pick a fight with 12 million people. Please don't do that. You won't win. Pick a smaller fight, pick a smaller competition, pick a smaller journey where you have less competition and more chances of success. That's just, I don't need to explain that. So mathematically, you need to be able to understand that. So most effective here is hiring managers. Guess what? They're the decision makers. They're the people who are the first in line of command in the decision making line. They know exactly who's needed, who's not needed. They can project needs. If they know someone's retiring, someone's being let go, someone might quit, they can start to recruit ahead of time. So that's why, nearly 20% of people who applied to a hiring manager got hired, and that's fantastic. when I coach someone, we spend 80% of our time on dealing with hiring managers only. Right after that, we contact internal recruiters, and we spend a lot of time on social media posts and social media shares. We spend like 10% of time on internal recruiters, 10% of time on social media posts. And that's our strategy. Fourth and fifth are referrals and agency recruiters. Frankly, we don't focus a ton on those because we've already, by focusing on the first three, we pretty much land enough interviews that we don't need to contact someone for a referral. The referral can only refer you, influence you getting hired. They're not a decision maker. And again, it's quite competitive, you know. Chances are you might end up connecting with someone who could be intimidated by you, who wouldn't have the right information, so they misdirect you. So there's been a lot of experiences like that too. And agency recruiters, you know, I come with 8 years of agency experience. I don't want to talk too much behind their back, but if you have experiences with them, chances are they're negative. Aside from the whole experience where they just want to sell your application and make some money, the fact is that you actually are putting a price tag on your head. You know, for a company, for an employer to hire you, they need to pay the agency some money. So you just made it more expensive to get hired. It's the worst thing you can do to yourself, you know? So, you know, I could have love for the agencies because I guess I grew up in them. I learned all that after my, you know, my career in tech, but they're not an effective use of your time. So, this is something that I've also linked as well to the company. The data that comes out of is JobVite. This is one page out of a 27-page data book. These are the results from last year. I've been following this data since 2014. Other data coming from other applicant tracking systems, other job search databases, they're all the same. The patterns are the same. The numbers might be give or take 1 or 2%. Patterns exactly the same, haven't changed in ever. They're never going to change ever. I believe that truly because human behavior does not change ever, you know. And hiring strategies that have been this way for a long time. The number one thing that's changing how hiring is done is AI, and we're still quite a few years away from like transformation in how hiring is done. AI is not good at hiring right now. It makes more mistakes than does more damage than help. But that's a conversation for a different day. Let's move on to the fourth part of the presentation. So how can you increase the chances of getting an interview through networking? By better communicating, by better messaging. So by asking for advice and opinion, asking for guidance, not asking for a job, as well as also like giving advice and giving your opinion and sharing your suggestions, ideas, and insights. So and we do that by asking better questions, because when you ask a better question, you get a better answer. Pretty straightforward. I want to give you a few examples of what you can say potentially in a networking message that can give you those results. And this can get really deep. I'm just going to give you a few examples, 3 different frameworks for you to see how you can still communicate and end up getting an interview with that person. At least get them to respond back to you, because that's where most people will struggle. You know, invitation messages go unanswered, introduction messages go ignored, and you get ghosted by recruiters and hiring managers. And it's ultimately because you're asking them to do you a favor. You're like obligating them to do something for you, or you provide just way too much information. You start telling them your life story, and quite frankly, they don't care. You're a total stranger. Like you gotta tell them something that they care about, right? So first example you can give is that you can say, literally quote unquote, that I've been paying close attention to how you've developed your career and would love to hear your thoughts on what it would take to build a successful career as a chemical engineer like you did, as a data scientist like you did. So this is where you reach out to someone who is in the same role, same career path as you, ideally a hiring manager or a senior engineer, senior scientist on the same path as you. Show them that you've cared enough to do your research, give them a compliment, give them kudos, and ask their thoughts. Show them that their opinion, their thoughts matter to you, and you're looking up to them for guidance. That's a way different conversation than, hey, can you help me get a job? You know, ultimately, if they resonate with you, if you establish a conversation that they want to get involved with, guess what? They get to know you better, they understand you better, and they see that you're genuinely aiming to learn from them. You develop that dialogue, you establish a conversation, you create that relationship, and then in like 1, 2, 3 messages later, you pop that question is that, hey, can you actually get into a company like yours? Like, do you guys have any current positions open that may not be presently advertised? Like you'll get to that question, but you can't start with that. Cool. So we can talk about that later on again at the end of the presentation. Another thing you can say, hey, I'm curious to know your opinion on something I'm aiming to understand better. What are the I made a little typo there. So what are the top attributes of a high performing chemical engineer within your organization, high performing data scientist within your organization, within your team? So this is where you're striving to identify what is it going to take for you to be successful. That's the journey you're on. So I don't just want a job. I want to be a top performing member of that team with that title, with that position. So it shows that you're aiming to connect at a much higher level. You don't care about just having a job and a paycheck. You want to make sure you fit into that environment and you're successful, and you can collaborate with them well. You can help them achieve their results and solve their problems. Cool. So moving on, next thing you can say, hey, I noticed you have successfully transitioned from this position to becoming that. So let's say from going from a senior engineer to an engineering manager, what would you suggest to me for pursuing the same path? So that would be fantastic, especially when you're contacting hiring managers. This is what I would recommend to you. Admire their transition into a leadership role and ask them for advice and their suggestion on what they would suggest you do to pursue a path, a similar path, the same path, or you can say a path into an engineering role if it's your first job. Cool. So we can talk about, this is just a few examples. There are so many that we can talk about. My goal for today's presentation is for you to understand the fundamental, the strategy. Ask better questions, get better answers. Last but not least, I want to help you understand another strategy and fundamental of how you can initiate more conversations, informational interviews, and especially following up to speak with more people that are inside those companies, whether they're senior engineers, senior scientists, senior staff in your role, or ideally hiring managers, even recruiters in this case, right? And again, the psychology behind it, what you want to get across, I always begin to talk about this by sharing a Theodore Roosevelt quote that says, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So you must have felt this in the previous templates, that you're demonstrating to them that you really care about who they are and what they do and what does it take to be successful. You begin to share with them how much you know, how much you can help them with, what skills you have, what experiences you have acquired. Nobody cares about how much you know something until they know that you care about them. So that's critical. You still want to be able to ask better questions to get better answers. And one thing you can say is that, hey, I've been learning more about the products your company develops, and I have an idea that I would like to share with you so that you can avoid these negative consequences. So the punchline here are the negative consequences. So you got to do your research, understand the company's products, their services, their technology, whatever it is that they're offering, their solutions, and figure out what would happen if they don't make a good product. What would happen if they deliver a service and it fails? What happens if they're unable of offering that solution? If their technology isn't received well? This shows them like how you're being perceived. This shows them they understand that you really care about them. You really care about that company. You really care about that product and that service. And you need to come up with ideas that would help them avoid those failures and those disasters, those negative consequences. Because if you don't have an idea, if you have no insights or information to share, well, quite frankly, that's not the right company for you. You shouldn't really go to that first interview totally blank. You'd be like, well, I'm here to answer questions. No, you're not there to go answer questions. Even informational interviews, you don't go to informational interviews to gain information. You go there to give information. That's a prerequisite to receiving. Givers are gainers. So if you give, then you gain. So often you got the whole process backwards. You want people to just give you stuff, and you haven't come up with a single idea or anything to give them. They don't owe you anything. Okay. So that's what you want to propose them, and then invite them to a conversation. Would you be open to starting a conversation? Ask them that, give them a date and time, book that call, and just see how many interviews you're going to land every single week. This is just one of the multiple templates we use. Multiple interviews every single week within a week. Without everybody gets that, without any exceptions. We'll talk about that more. But in conclusion, I want you guys to see that, secure job offers, you want to be able to build your professional network and develop your personal brand. Those two things are the two components, two sides of the same coin, which is you. You need to develop a personal brand and actively communicate who you are and what you do, what you care about. Things you want to avoid is applying online. Instead, you want to target companies directly, send networking messages to hiring managers, and use them as shortcuts to secure job interviews. I always say that you got to be able to take the elevator to success, and there is an elevator to success when you follow a straight line, a straight path. And how do you make sure it's straight? It's aligned, it's parallel to the same process that employers use to find top candidates for their team, for their open jobs. That's the straight path, and a straight line is the shortest distance between you and your target. So that's where networking comes in. Secondly, you want to use LinkedIn each and every day. You should live on LinkedIn. You should you should be following an effective networking system and best practices to stay on target, to stay accountable to hitting your goals. And lastly, when having conversations with employers, you gotta focus on the problems you solve and the benefits you offer them. Well, I'm gonna leave you with one thing in this presentation is don't talk about yourself, talk about the problems that you solve. When you talk about the problems that you solve, you're positioning yourself as a problem solver. A problem solver is a selfless person, a person who cares. When you show that you care, they care to learn about you. They give care back to you. If you position yourself as just a solution provider, I'm here to just solve and do this and do that, and look what I can do, look what I can do. If you do that, a solution provider is a selfish person. Doesn't care about solving the other person's problem. This just only cares about having his or her solution implemented. And that's what 9 out of 10 people, 8 out of 10 people do. That's what gets you to get disqualified. Your resume gets tossed out. Your application gets declined because you're just not aligned with the way, with the culture, with the psychology, with the character that any employer wants to bring into their environment, to their team. Cool. So I know I unpacked a lot over here and went through it fast, very quickly, but I just want to thank you. I'm guessing we have a bunch of questions here, so I'll stop the screen share so we can go up all back on camera. I know I'm gonna have like I'll be able to see all you guys on video. But last but not least, you can find me on engineeryourmission.com to learn more about the work that I do. More than welcome to contact me over there. Otherwise, LinkedIn, LinkedIn for breakfast, LinkedIn for lunch, LinkedIn for dinner. Find me there. Let's connect. A handful of you guys already have done that, so I appreciate you. I saw a few familiar names already here. Let's connect, let's grow together, and let's just change the fundamentals of job search so you can get the job that you deserve.
Thank you so much, Nader. It was really good, awesome presentation. And I think we had a few tips and questions in the chat box. If you could direct them, after that I want to be much more interactive so that if anybody have a question, they could open their video and they could ask them their question so that we could that kind of interactive environment so that it could be much more helpful. So if you could direct the questions in the chat box first, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so I have a few questions here. So let's see. I just see a lot of notes. From Arash says, I think you need to reconnect. I think we got that covered. Change the audio input. I think that was the beginning of the call. We got that covered. Juniper can hear me. Perfect. I can hear you too. And then I found one of the best manner to grow your network is volunteering. It's a good way to grow your network, but it's extremely time consuming. You know, it's just you're gonna make great connections, but you're gonna spend a lot of time. I refer to volunteering as like a great way to build your skill, build your confidence, like develop the level of conviction and clarity you need to have to perform well on the job. But volunteering, I wouldn't list it as a networking strategy, because networking strategy, like I can invite 50 people to connect with me on LinkedIn right now. Before I go to sleep, 5 of them will connect. I'll introduce myself to 5 with the right message. I'll have a conversation booked tomorrow. That would be an effective and efficient networking strategy. But for you to volunteer, it's just gonna take so long. I'm not discounting it, but it's not an effective use of your time. Otherwise, 100%. I have nothing against volunteer work. It's what I'm doing right now. I'm volunteering. You know. So next one, who is the best person to connect with in the company? It's going to be your next future boss. So depending on the title that you're going after, you got to figure that out. What will be my targeted title in this targeted position in this company? Find team. Who's the person that manages that team? Your immediate person, the immediate person you're going to be reporting to. That will be the best person to connect with. If you tell me what title you're going after, I can make a recommendation of who the potential title of the hiring manager is. Next question on the list, ask advice on who in the industry is hiring. No, like don't ask people. That's the thing. That's the thing I want you to not do. Don't ask anyone who's hiring. Unless they're like your cousin or they're your friend, or it's me, you know, like someone's my job, or it's like someone, it's Shahab, like, you know, but don't contact a stranger and say who's hiring. Why should they care? You know, if you're going to give them something and then the thing that you want to gain is like, hey, do you mind now sharing with me who's a good connect, who's a nice person for me to connect with, who would be growing right now? You know, sure, if you give and then gain advice on that, great, but you don't need to ask anybody about who's hiring. You got to look at hiring data. So one of the reasons you need to have access to LinkedIn Premium is hiring data. And it's called Premium Business Insights. LinkedIn Premium has 4 different packages. The first premium package called Career. That is not what I'm talking about because it doesn't have the insight. Some accounts have it. Some accounts have been recently upgraded, but the career insights, that's not what I'm talking about. It's not related to job advertisements. It's business insights. So when you get to the second package, I think it's like $60 a month. That's where you get to see the business hiring trends. You're going to see that company, how many people have they hired this month, you know, every single month, how many people have they hired for the last 2 years. That's tremendous value. You can look up every company you want to work for, figure out if they're hiring or not. You don't need to ask anybody that. Next question, how can I find a hiring manager in a company? Through LinkedIn, so through LinkedIn people search. Any company that you go to, any company page on LinkedIn, right on top of the page, it says how many employees they have. So if you click on it, it says like 579 employees. Click on that. It's going to conduct a people search within the employees of that company. Then you can go to the filters, choose the location that you want to work at, and there's another filter called title. So if you're a mechanical engineer or any kind of engineer, just look for engineering manager as a title. So you're going to filter the employees of that company based on all the engineering managers. There's your answer right there. So you can get there in about 10 seconds for each company. What is your opinion to find people's emails and send them an email? As some are not active on LinkedIn. Great question, Reza. Yeah, love it. You know, if you probably work in a highly niche environment because most people do have a LinkedIn profile. You know, I wonder what you do. You know, Most people. It's very rarely I come across a person or a company whose hiring managers we cannot find on LinkedIn.
Uh, Thank you, Nader. Can I explain my question? Thank you for your awesome presentation. Actually, I requested to be connected, but it's around 2 months that I didn't receive any response from them. So I understand that they are not active in LinkedIn. I tried to find one person's email address, and I found it, and I sent an email. I received the response after that. I thought maybe it should be better option, better idea. Uh, I
Definitely,
just want
because
to know.
they get your email in their email inbox. So people check their email every day. They will not check LinkedIn every day. So LinkedIn Premium has a feature called InMail. So when you send someone an InMail, they actually receive it as an email. They receive it in their email inbox. So I like there's multiple features that Premium has that are beneficial. It's worth every single dollar that you spend on it. Especially the second Premium package gives you 15 monthly InMails. So even if you don't have someone's email address with an InMail, you're actually sending them an email. LinkedIn doesn't reveal to you what their email address is, but they're gonna deliver it as an email to them.
Thank you. Now I have another question about the location. In LinkedIn, you should specify where are you living. What's your opinion? Do we need to say, it's not important for me to move to some other cities, but maybe HR managers don't know that, and they prefer to hire some people who is located in their location right
Of
now.
course.
So what should I do? What's your opinion?
That's a deal breaker. So if I'm in Toronto, you're applying from Saskatoon or Regina, like you're not in my city. Why should I hire someone from Saskatoon? Like you're probably not going to move here anyways, you know? So you're right. Nobody cares about people. When I say nobody, I'm exaggerating, but like most of the times people are going to be hired from local sources. That's number one. Secondly, I'll just go back to what you said in the beginning. You're on your LinkedIn, you're not supposed to indicate where you live. The location that you choose is the location that you want your profile to be listed in.
So we should think about where we want to go. Then
You have to. You have to. If you want to go in Toronto, if you want to move to Calgary, if you want to live in Vancouver, you have to pick a destination. You cannot say, "Oh, I'm open to any jobs in Canada." That doesn't. It's the worst thing you can say. You know, it's the worst thing you can say. So if you're in, whereabouts are you? What city are you in?
I'm in Saskatchewan right now, but sometimes I apply for some jobs in Edmonton. Sometimes I apply for jobs in Calgary. So I can't change my location every time. So there are some limitation in opportunities in just one city. So in this situation, I prefer to apply for many cities, not
Yeah.
just focus on one city. That's
Sure.
why
So
I
I'm going to
asked this
challenge
question.
that. I'm going to challenge that. So based on what you learned today, there aren't limitations and opportunities in one city. There are limitations in one city based on the advertised positions. If you're looking for all the jobs in Edmonton, you find 100. There's another 900 jobs that have just not been advertised yet. So you, me, or anybody here, we cannot find the internet. We cannot open the World Wide Web and find it. No freaking way. Absolutely no way. They're not public. If that's not public data, it's not public information. You need to contact the people inside the company, people who have access. So what you need to do is a three-step process that I go through to help everybody build their job search strategy plan. So the plan starts by making a list of your target companies. There's there's a finite number of companies in Saskatoon, in Edmonton, in Calgary. There's a set number of companies that you can work at. You can make that list tonight. That's number one. From that list, we pick the top 20. There's at least 100 companies you can work at in any of those cities. We pick the top 20. more than enough. So that's number one, pick your target companies. Number two, make a list of the hiring managers in each company. So let's say you, for example, you pick 20 companies, and for the sake of making the math easy, pick 5 decision makers, 5 hiring managers in each company. That's 100 people, 100 hiring managers. That's point number 2, find the right people. Number 3 is send the right message. So if you completely change the way you message what you ask, so if you ask a better question to get a better answer, your message is going to be a lot more effective. The response rate is going to be like 6 to 10 times better than I'm sure the message that you're sending right now. So that's how you, that's why I would challenge you. I said there are enough opportunities because there are enough companies. You're just not contacting the right decision makers or hiring managers, and you're not using the right message.
Thank you. My last question, if you let me ask, what's your opinion about changing the location to just Canada? Does it have any effect on, you know, searching the headhunters or,
It has an effect. Yeah, it has a negative effect.
so it's not good. You don't recommend it.
No, pick one city at a time. You spend 4 weeks, minimum 4 weeks in one city, using the right strategy. If you're gonna still go and apply online, you're gonna play the lottery, it's just not gonna work for you. It doesn't work for anybody else. It doesn't work. If you want to take your 0.5% chance, go for it, but I don't recommend. But spend 4 weeks following a systematic approach, a proactive networking approach. If that doesn't get you a bunch of interviews and a job offer, then when the 4 weeks is done, you change your location from Edmonton to Calgary. Then you spend 4 weeks using a proactive, systematic approach, contacting hiring managers and the companies you want to work at with the right message. If that's a big if that doesn't work, and I say if because like we rarely have to do that, like 90% of times it works. 10%, okay, we're going to change it from Edmonton to Toronto, and you land interviews in Toronto, you get a job offer in Toronto, and that's it. But most of the times, if you take the right approach and you just follow that process, getting an interview is not a problem. Like booking a meeting with a company is not a problem. The problem is often passing the interviews and getting to the job offer. Which is why I do at least 2 job interview practice sessions every day, at least 2. Because everybody learns when I coach someone, they follow a very step-by-step process. They learn the right message, they learn how to find the right people, how to use LinkedIn. All that stuff is very standardized. Everybody does the same thing, everybody gets results, you get the interviews. But then after that, different people have different personalities. You have certain skills that I don't. I have a certain characteristic. You have a different personality and behavior. It's those things. It's often the behavioral questions that end up disqualifying you because you appear as not the right fit, like the cultural fit. It's not the technical stuff.
Thank you, Nader.
Of course. Thanks for your questions. Great questions. I don't have any other questions in the chat, but the floor is open. I'm all yours.
I think there is one more, which premium package would be better if we are looking for a job. I think it's
I
for
would recommend the
LinkedIn.
business package because you're going to get the business insights.
Okay.
There's 4. There's career, business, sales, and recruiter. You don't need sales and recruiter for obvious reasons. Career just sounds right. I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for career, so I get the career. Start there, like bare minimum start there. I think it's like $30 a month. Don't get the yearly package, just pay month by month. If you don't have business insights, so if you go to a company page, let me see. Let me share my screening. I'll show you this, guys, so you see exactly what I'm talking about. Share. Where is my... Okay. Do you see my LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Give me a company you want to work at. Anybody?
Reza, go ahead. You are much more.
Reza, what company you want to work at?
For example, say Akuren, Akuren, Akuren. Yes, the first one. Oh, yes.
You got the screen?
Yes, yeah.
You see insights here?
Yes.
So this is a premium feature. You see, like you got premium features. So what you get with that is the total employee count over the last 2 years. So you see, over the last 2 years, the company's total employee count has grown by 3%, 1% than last year, no change in the last 6 months. You're going to get the employee distribution headcount growth by function. So you can look at all these different functions, all these different departments, and see which ones have grown, which ones have not. You see, so if you're, for example, if you're in engineering, engineering has grown by 1% over the last 6 months. One of my favorite is the new hire count. So this is monthly hires every month. This month, in the last 12 days, they've already hired 3 people, or at least 3 people have updated their profile on LinkedIn, you know, like they said that they got a job here. Last month, 18. These are all monthly numbers. They also tell you the most recent senior management hires. You know, so these are critical because every time a senior manager comes in your department, they normally reorganize, reshuffle, rehire. You see, like this is critical. So this is example of a company who's pretty much like doing well. You know, the number of connections doing well, not too much growth, but they're not bad. You see where I'm going with that? So it just depends on which companies you want to go after. If you have access to that information, then you can. If you don't have access to that information, then you can't. Just trying to find a company that's negative. So again, these are all positive. The companies you want to stay away from is where like the pandemic hit and hiring stopped. So it's just like pretty much flat, or 1 or 2 people are hired, and you see a negative decline. You know, I know companies like that, but I don't want to put them on the pedestal here. But that's what that premium package will give you, you know?
How it could be useful for us? For example, we suppose that we know that how many percentage they already hired. We can't, we can't anticipate or for the future, you know.
Yeah, you can. You can. If there's a positive growth pattern, that's what it means, you know? If the numbers are going up, they're going to continue to go up. That's just how business patterns work, you know? Got a
Any
couple
oth-
more companies here. I'll share a couple more. Let me know if you got this screen. I can't find Moses Structural, but what else do we have? SED company, I cannot find. Make sure it's the right spelling.
SED change to Kalyan. You should search Kalyan.
Spell that?
Let's Kalyan. Callian.
It's
Kalyan. CAL.
Like that?
I see SED systems right there.
The first one and the third one.
Okay, that's a company like I would stay away from. It doesn't even show us the negative monthly hires, but if you look at like, you can look at all the functions. You know, like you cannot be excited by that, you know? Cannot expect. It's not terrible, but I would just skip. I would just move on to the next one, you know? Just go on to, you know, like the next one and see if you can find this guy. If the company is too small, they don't have enough data to track, so the insights will be empty. The more data you have, the more you'll get. So we were looking at Chevron the other day, so 72,000 employees. And it's just going to be a lot more data, you know, like the number of this month, 12 days, 201 people. At least 201 people have already updated their profile, you know. Last month, 659. The month before that, 1,500 people. Do the math. How many job offers have been given out per day in that month, you know? So that's what helps you. You can see a pattern. You can get excited by that pattern. You can see that a company is continuously growing. And there's absolutely no way they're going to be spending all that money on job advertisements. Don't get distracted by that. Chevron is not only looking for 78 jobs. They probably have 1,000 jobs open. 78 of them are advertised on this website. You know, I'm not even exaggerating when I say 1,000. Maybe it's not 1,000, it's 800, but this is not the number of job openings at Chevron. It's like put a zero in front of it, and now we're being realistic. Okay. Cool. Awesome. What else?
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Duncan. I am a civil engineering and my major is structural engineering. So I would like to ask you questions. For example, when I find somebody in the company and I know exactly who I am going to contact with on LinkedIn, when I hit the connect button, it shows me that add a note or send. So, for example, if I want to gain more percentages to get back from the person, should I click add a note? And if so, what should I say? What should I tell them?
You definitely want to add a note. Definitely want, and that's where you personalize your message, and it's not something standardized that I can tell you to plug and play right now. So the examples that you saw today were just a few different examples. Like those 3 examples are all valid, you know, but I'd rather you actually learn to customize that message based on what that person is that it's doing. Because then you can bring a second component to it. You can really position yourself as someone who has done their research, understand who they are and what they do, and you propose something of value to them. You can certainly ask something to engage them, ask about their ideas and insights, ask for guidance. It's a great way to start a conversation. But if you already know that you're contacting someone, that person's a potential hiring manager, potential future boss, you gotta give them something too. You know, it's not about only asking. Asking is great, but if you lead with something of value, you would definitely get better results. But definitely, you want to have a personalized message. You don't want to send an empty invite. You want to, this is normally what I teach it. When you go to someone's house, you knock on their door. I know that's like something that we don't remember anymore, going to people's houses, like knock, 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 mask off, guess who's here, you know, or you call someone on the phone. You're gonna have to say something, right? Sending invites on LinkedIn is the same thing. When you send them that invite, if the invite is empty, it's like knocking on someone's door and expecting them to open the door without you saying something, or calling someone expecting them to talk to you without you saying hello and introducing yourself. Doesn't work like that. You're reaching out, you're responsible for establishing that conversation, and you're supposed to pick a topic, pick a theme of that conversation, and you're going to start getting better results and higher success rates and acceptance rates when the topic of the conversation that you choose is of benefit to the other person. So first, that's why you have to offer something of value, so it's beneficial to them. When they're thinking about speaking with you, they're going to be thinking, oh, what's in it for me? What do I get out of this conversation? We need to be able to answer that question, without them asking it. We need to just show them, this is what I have for you. This is what I want to help you with. And I want to ask you your advice on what it would take for me to become a high performing employee and managing your technical support issues in your, IT infrastructure, but there has to be something that you offer them. It might be, streamlining their escalation process. It might be managing their tier 3. It might be becoming the liaison between in-house tech support and external solution providers. You might have some hands-on integration skills. Something like, I don't know you, that's why I cannot just say, oh, say this. I have to really understand you. But knowing what your skills are, and your skills is the value that you offer. You got to offer that thing of value, what makes you Duncan, what makes you you, and then ask him something in return, And the thing you ask in return cannot be a job or something at that level. Your conversation will end up on that topic, but in the beginning, it needs to be like asking that person for advice, for their opinion, for their guidance, because people feel good to give advice, I feel good, like, regardless of this is what I do or not. If you ask Shahab, if you ask Reza, like, if something they do, and they do that, and you ask them for help, this is a human thing. As human beings, we like helping one another, especially if we're getting something in return. Especially if you're giving me something and I feel obligated to give something back to you. So there's a book by a doctor called Dr. Robert Cialdini. The book is called Influence, Power of Persuasion. There are 6 different principles of persuasion. The book is from 1984. I've read it like 2-3 times because I teach it. I talk about influence. So Dr. Robert Cialdini. Famous guy, book is Influence. It's one of the principles is called reciprocation. Reciprocation means giving back. So you want people to reciprocate. You want people to give something back. But for you to expect them to give you something back, you first have to give them something. That's why when we go to see, like, and get house visits, you go to visit a friend or something like that, you take him a gift. You kind of like give him a housewarming gift. You take a bottle of wine. Like, I know in our Persian culture, we have a lot of that. We take some sweets. You take something like every visit for no reason. And a lot of times you expect them to come back to your house and bring something bigger and better. So it's like, that's just how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
If you go to someone's house, you take them just a 6-pack of beer. Well, guess what? They're pretty much going to bring you a 6-pack of beer. If you take them a bottle of $200 champagne, well, you're kind of like forcing their hand to give you like $200 worth of value. So you have to be very strategic. So I like sweets, guys.
Okay, thank you very much.
Pistachios are good too. Okay, before I lose my opportunity,
Hi, I have a question. First, thank you for your presentation. I really enjoyed your presentation. It was good, clear, well spoken, and very inspirational. And yeah, so my name is Teddy, and I'm a master's student in mechanical engineering. And when you say giving, I just give something back. I'm just trying to grasp, a perfect or a good scenario. So let's say I'm the hiring manager, you background in electrical engineering, and let's say you've done some projects in school, maybe like I don't know, control systems or whatever, and you're looking for a way to build a connection with someone that is a senior manager also in the engineering background or from the engineering background. So what do you say to someone that has 15 years of experience and you've just done a couple of projects in your undergrad? What can you exactly give them that would interest them?
First of all, the way you're thinking about it is wrong. So let me first correct that, because you're thinking there's no way I can know more than the guy with 15 years of experience. That's not the goal. The goal is not to go to your professor and just be like, oh, I got you. You know, you're stupid. It's like, no, that's not the goal. We're not trying to outsmart someone. That's don't think of that. It's not about outsmarting someone. It's not about I'm gonna have to invent something that they haven't invented yet, and I'm gonna go patent it. Then that's my idea. Absolutely not. You're over exaggerating by a million degrees. So first of all, it's not that. Second of all, it's not about my projects and the control systems that I worked on. It's about the control systems that you have in your company. It's not about me, it's about you. I'm not going to get a job in your company to work at the projects that I had. I'm going to help develop your control systems. You understand? So you're going to have to I cannot just give you an answer on this because I don't know where you work. I don't know which company. I don't know which department you work at. Like we need to figure that stuff out, which is like the 3-step process is find the company, you know exactly what the company is, then the person, then we have enough information to write the message. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see. I see exactly what you mean. Thank you.
So don't doubt the process because that's a very systematized process. You know, it's very standard. It could be any company in the world. You can have any position you want. You could be a recent graduate, not even graduated. The other person could be the owner of the company. It could be Elon Musk. It really doesn't matter. You can and you will come up with an idea dependent on what it is that you actually want to do for them. Your job could be just checking schematics, man. I could just be looking at schematics. As your first job, you're just pushing paper. You're doing basic calculations. You're doing some GD&T work. You're just checking, you know, you're double checking stuff. You're supporting someone with, you know, some manufacturing drawings. You're submitting engineering change notices. You're not doing any design from scratch. You're not doing any prototyping. You know, you're going to be calibrating the machinery, you know, like you're going to do very basic stuff. You just have to be able to understand what it is that you're actually going to be doing that's relevant to that person, because you're demonstrating to them that you have the knowledge, you have the clarity, you have the right intention. So a lot of times, like since you said you're a master's student, that's why I'm like very picky at what you're actually going to be doing. Half my mentees right now in my program, they're all recent graduates. So everybody's first mistake is that, oh yeah, I want to design the next robotic arm. I want to design the next heart valve. It's like, dude, it's gonna take you 10 years before you touch, you know, a medical device. You're gonna be doing some boring stuff for the next 2-3 years. You're gonna learn FDA regulations. You're gonna have to like understand, you know, policies. You're going to do a lot of testing. You're going to do a lot of verification validation. You're going to be doing a lot of like tracing. You're going to be doing a lot of just like Q&A work, you know, for you to be able to completely understand how things are done post-production, post-manufacturing. Then you're going to go into like maybe like packaging. Then when you learn all that stuff, you're going to go into like process optimization. Not even process design and process development. That stuff is set in stone. You start making very small optimization to the processes. So you make, you know, the line move faster, you know, you implement and integrate a new vision system, new camera system, some things like that. And then maybe like later on, when you become a professional engineer, you slowly become part of the team that sits in between design and manufacturing. You work on between the actual design and the engineering drawings. You work between like 3D manufacturing, the pilot plant, and the mass manufacturing plant. And then, you know, with 15 years of experience, you've got gray hair now, you get into R&D. You know, but if you come out there and it's like, hi, I want to get into R&D, they'll never message you because you don't even have the basic understanding of what you're capable of doing, you know. That's how you're being judged, and that's why I'm just telling you very directly. They're just gonna know that, okay, well, you've got a long road you're gonna have to fall down so many times. That's the conversation that person said. They'll never tell you that because they don't have the time for you. But you're gonna have to realize what you need to do. So your message, rather than I want to help design this, which you're never gonna do as your first job, you help them check schematics faster. You help them upload their traditional data from Excel sheets into their main database, into their QMS, quality management system, and you implement Python on it. You take a look at the last 3 years of data, you automate some of the activities. Very basic stuff. But then guess what? You do that for a year, you understand processes, you understand all the common failure points, and then you put together a low program that houses all the failed projects together. You segment all the successful ones. You develop an algorithm to identify, you know, which projects have a better probability of success. Like, I know this is boring stuff. Like, it sounds boring to me too, even. But if you say that you want to do this stuff, they understand your intention. They understand, okay, this guy is not delusional, you know? Because if you say you want to get into design or even manufacturing, that's an illusion, you know? Is that fair? I know I'm being like super direct with you, but you need to hear this because part of the right message is to know what you actually, not what you're capable of. Yeah, sure, maybe you're capable of doing R&D tomorrow, doing prototyping. There's no way you are, you know, it just doesn't work like that. Because otherwise, then everybody would get into design right away. But if you just change your message and you become very humble, you become very clear, you develop that self-awareness and self-acceptance, accept that you're going to have to read a lot of stuff and, you know, deal with very boring stuff for 2 years, you tough it out, then you're going to, you know, you're going to get your yellow belt, and then, you know, you're going to get your orange belt, and you're going to keep going up to 5 years later, you're going to get your brown belt, and they're going to let you to go and show up for practice. They're going to let you go see what the R&D room looks like.
Not, I see Juniper's hands up. I think he has something to share.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I see that.
Sorry, that was actually an error, but I don't know if I can entirely agree with you there. I know that in the technology sector, a lot of companies hire people for R&D right out of school, and that's quite common.
Depends.
But,
Medical devices, never seen it.
Seeing startup companies with medical devices, but you're right, with medical devices, that's different.
Well, you're right. Yeah, it
But
depends. It just all depends on what it is, you know. And
I know.
startups, yeah, startups would hire you off the street. Go
Mhm.
stand in front of the building with, hire me. I can do this for you. I'll sweep the lunchroom. You know, they'll hire you because they're desperate. No one knows them. You know, they need help. So that's a little bit different. But if you're going after like established medical device or any established business that has like a onboarding, like you have a ramp up process without experience coming out of school, you haven't earned your badges. You haven't earned your stripes, you know. Otherwise, Chevron wouldn't become Chevron. Amazon wouldn't be Amazon, you know. They have a standard operating procedure to groom you out of school, and then they get you into design. You know, it's just you're risky getting to, for established business, they've got there by spending so much time and money and energy, you know, made so many mistakes, and the biggest mistakes are talent mistakes, you know, hiring and not hiring the right talent.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes if anybody has any question or anything to share.
Excuse me, I am Duncan again. So I am following your steps to find the insights tab in each company on LinkedIn. However, I couldn't find the insights tab.
Do you have a
Do
premium
we need to
account?
do something?
Do you have a premium account?
No, I don't.
That's why. Yeah, you need a
Oh, I
premium
see.
account. Yeah.
Okay, I think everybody's good.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
I was just going to say, if there's nothing else, I just wanted to thank Nader for his very well put together presentation. I found that I couldn't believe how fast the time went with this presentation. It's rare to see a presentation so well put together on a topic that's so nebulous.
I appreciate that feedback. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Actually, as I said, Juniper is the director of the